so I've got Scola in a state where he's almost ready to be fully assembled for the book bust that's going to be on the book cover. The thing that is causing me troubles right now is the seam in the middle of his forehead, because his head has to be divided in two to do the molding and casting. Because of all these little dangly bits, they need to be pointed down. Need to be like, it's much easier if they're pointed down. So yeah, I can't have all of the things. If these are pointing down and it's all together, then these little guys are all pointing up. And if these are, there's basically just no way to do it. So I just have to have his head split in half. And I've been kind of hand patching together the seam here to figure out how to get the thing cast and molded properly. And so yesterday I went in and I added a bunch of these little bumples going down in the middle of his forehead ridge. They're more related to mongoose and distantly related to cats. Prairie dogs are actually rodents. Oh yeah, totally different. Just happen to be shaped the same. Right, so there's still this little obnoxious crack there. One thing I think I'm gonna do, I've been putting off, and I need to stop putting it off, because when you're doing a piece like this, you need to bounce from the microscopic detail out to the macro big picture proportions and forms and composition. If you stay focused on one over the other, you end up running into troubles. So so what I need to do is get him put on his platform properly today. So I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to use some steel stick, this 2-part epoxy, and I'm going to stick a blob basically on the bottom of this guy, stick it on, and then the steel stick sets within a couple minutes, and then I should be able to pop it off and on. That's how I've been doing most of this back, the structure behind the scenes here.
Now, if you get a larger printer and you're casting as one piece, will it still be hollow inside, or will it be solid?
Well, like with Beaumark here,
yeah,
he's cast solidly, but what I do is I pour about a quarter of the resin that would fill it up, and then I slosh it around, and that makes a skin around the outside, and then I fill the rest of the cavity with an expanding foam that's cheaper and lighter.
Yes. Yep, that makes sense.
Something similar will go on with this guy. Alright, so Rose here, aka my mom, is working on our World Anvil, which is the repository for the world building for Talifar, of which all of the sculpture and everything is a part of. And right now we're working on a place called the Megaloth Empire, which is kind of the biggest empire that readers are introduced to in the first trilogy of books. And we never sat down and discussed this, but I think we're both on the same page. Megaloth Empire is not an evil empire, nor is it a good empire. It's a pretty realistic empire.
An empire.
Yeah. We try to avoid these kind of binaries that plague a lot of fantasy.
Right. Right. Like the Roman Empire, they make the roads safe, theoretically, within its borders. They make sure roads to places with lots of trade are paved. And they have the unusual law, which obviously will never apply to the politicians, in that theft is considered treason. because they are host to trade for half the world.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to make
Speaking
sure
of the
no
Megalothi
merchant
now, right?
thinks can be stolen, he'll be robbed while he's walking the streets or delivering cargo.
Okay, but so we were talking about what's the category we're working on? Oh, we're doing
working on the
notes.
empire, and I was just the notes, so I need to finish this sentence and move on to type. When you already put in geopolitical is empire.
Yeah.
Okay. Motto, we are the greatest. I don't know.
If we could think of a fancy way to say that. It could be hub of the world, or something like that. Because from the side, I just want to make sure that he is forward to. I want to make sure he's not leaning back.
Yeah, unbalanced.
Like, if anything, I want to err on the side of him leaning forward a little bit. But I think right there is pretty good.
That lets him look like he's glowering better.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's fine. So I'm just gonna reinforce this support.
Hello, lots of numbers. Kess also says, are you changing the spelling? Sidj? Yeah, well, it was S-I-I-J, now it's S-I-D-J, to make sure there's no confusion between them and the word siege, S-E-I-G-E.
Mostly because people were pronouncing it, when they saw it the old way, they were pronouncing it siege.
That's how I was pronouncing it. I
right.
thought that was my name!
No, I want it to be Sidge. And the reason I don't want people pronouncing it siege is because it's a fantasy world where sieges are an activity that happen on a fairly regular basis.
You make collaboration tough sometimes.
Well,
or maybe it's
I made it clear. Yeah, I put it in the Facebook post, months ago or last year or whatever. I said, here's the reason that I don't like this current spelling. When I did a poll, right? How would you pronounce the following? So I picked the one that people didn't pronounce as siege.
Okay.
Make a nice plugs here, and then I have to patch up the bottom. Or I do several attempts where I keep trying to do this process over and over. I think one of the problems is I'm moving too fast. I need to let it sit for 15 or 20 minutes before I try adding more to it. So.
Well, that makes for boring.
Now, I've got plenty of other things to switch to. I'm actually too focused. My focus is to my detriment this one time in my life. I make several molds. I make a mold of this, I make a mold of each half of his head, and I make a mold of his torso.
Okay. That's right. We need to ask for money so that you can buy a bigger printer.
Yeah. Give us money, guys. Go to my Patreon and give me $1,500 so I can get a 3D printer where I can print this all out in one go and not have to do it in itty-bitty parts that I have to stitch together, and adds another 50 hours to every project. Yeah, so I'm expanding these little plugs here because when I pour the resin in, it makes a natural funnel in the mold, so it's an easier target to hit to have these big wide things. But you still want a smooth flow going from the surface down into the mold, so that's what I'm doing here. I just blocked out where I wanted first, and now I'm making the smooth funnel down into the bottom of his feet.
But now we don't see his toes.
Well, it'll be sanded down, and when it sands down, it'll cut straight across there, and you'll see the toes. But that's why I chose the back feet, so that if the toes are obscured, you don't really see that anyway, unless you're actively moving the sculpture around in your hands, which 99% of people do not do. Zalaque is asking what inspires us, guys.
What inspires what?
What inspires us I assume, presuming about the stories and characters and all that kind of stuff.
You mean, was there a particular thing that sparked the idea for this? Not for me. It's something Josh has been talking about for years, and finally one day I said, let me provide you the first content.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it so much, here I am on book 11 now.
Yeah.
I had planned to write one.
I think I was so inspired as a kid by Star Wars. Just the idea, well, not just Star Wars, specifically behind the scenes stuff about Star Wars. And the idea that a person could make up a world. And it's a world that millions of people want to go and play in and be in and watch and see and talk about. And so that like world building is what's so exciting about me. I wanted to make my own Star Wars.
Yeah.
And but I didn't want it to be a copy paste of Star Wars, just different aliens with different names.
What we have is not space opera like that.
Right.
But it's still huge.
Yeah. And an infinite number of stories could be told in it, and all that kind of stuff. So that's what's exciting to me about it, and what inspires me is the idea of making a playground that other artists can work on in perpetuity. Long after I'm gone, my dream is that people are still making Talifar, stories and movies and TV shows and comics and games, and
That Eon is a well-known book. Yes, it is. Lots of art online, as it once the basis for a CG Society contest.
It was the basis.
Yes. Content was the basis. Okay.
I don't know what CG Society contest is. If you mean Computer Graphics Society, or if you mean computer game, or if you mean Calgary. I don't know what CG is short for. In that context.
You like the Wondermark cartoons I've been posting about the guy who doubled himself into a computer?
Yeah.
Now the computer's making fun of him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the biggest fundamental hurdle to transhumanism is the ship of Theseus problem and the transference and identity. We don't have good answers for those. Is there a way to switch you off in one body and switch you on in another body instantaneously? And if that happens, are you truly the same person? Assuming your new body has all the same, atom for atom, that body is identical to the previous one. Well, if that's the case, there's no point in changing, right?
Well, no. It was, if you're talking about going into the cloud, you're not talking about a body at all.
No, I'm saying the easier problem, the one that has the philosophical problem to begin with, is switching to a clone of yourself.
Okay.
Right? So that alone is, you've got to figure out. Changing to a different substrate for your consciousness, that's banana pants out there right now. I think I've got too many things at play right now, so I'm just going to let it sit. We'll call it for today, and most likely be back tomorrow. And we'll do more world building and sculpting. It'll be great. Great.
I'm so glad you guys came.
Yeah, so thanks for visiting, and we will see you again tomorrow. Let's just say we'll be here tomorrow, around the same time. Same great place, same great taste. See you later, guys. Bye.